For 5 years, nobody at Crestview knew who Sarah Blake really was. She fixed jets in silence, her hands covered in oil. But hidden at home was a Top Gun license few pilots ever earn. One night, an emergency changed everything. 2 F-35 pilots would soon salute a call sign they never expected to hear again. Falcon. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Every morning, Sarah arrived at the hangar before sunrise. She walked past rows of sleeping jets, her boots tapping softly on the cold floor. She checked engines, she fixed wires, she read numbers on small screens that most people could not understand. The other workers respected her because she was fast and careful. But they also thought she was strange. She never spoke about her past. She never brought a phone to work. She never joined the workers for lunch. She just did her job and went home. Chief Daniels had worked with Sarah for 3 years. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. He often watched Sarah work and wondered how a simple technician could understand jets so well. She could find a problem just by listening to the engine sound. She could fix issues that confused other mechanics for hours. Chief Daniels once asked her how she learned so much. Sarah only said, "I read a lot of manuals, Chief." He did not believe her, but he never pushed the question further.
At home, Sarah kept only 3 things from her old life. A photo of herself standing beside an F-35, smiling under the sun, a small trophy with the words, "Best Combat Pilot" written on it, and a letter from her old flying partner, Lieutenant Commander Mike Reyes. Mike had died during a mission 7 years ago. The mission failed because of bad information given by a corrupt officer named Colonel Grant. After the mission, Grant blamed Sarah for everything. He said she broke the rules and caused Mike's death. The truth was hidden.
Sarah was punished. She lost her wings, her rank, and her name in the sky. She changed her identity and disappeared into a quiet life, hoping nobody would ever find out who she used to be.
The mission that destroyed Sarah's career had started as a simple check inside a planning room. Colonel Grant had shown maps and reports that seemed strange to Sarah. She raised her hand and said the information did not match earlier reports. She asked for one more day to confirm the details before flying out.
Colonel Grant refused. He told her to follow orders and stop questioning senior officers. Sarah obeyed, even though her instincts warned her something was wrong. Hours later, her team flew into a trap. Enemy weapons attacked from positions that were never mentioned in the briefing.
Mike's jet was hit first. Sarah broke formation and flew back to help him, even though it went against direct orders. She managed to save his life that day, but the mission was called a failure. Grant used the chaos to build a story that made Sarah look careless and reckless. Fake reports were created. False witnesses were used. Nobody believed Sarah's side of the story, because Grant controlled every document that reached the courtroom. Within weeks, her wings were taken. Her name was erased from every official record, and she was left with nothing but memories and a warning to stay quiet forever. After leaving the courtroom that day, Sarah drove for hours without stopping. She sat alone in her car outside a small diner, staring at the sky where she used to fly. She thought about disappearing completely, moving far away where nobody knew her old life.
Instead, she chose a quieter path. She changed her name, cut her hair short, and applied for a simple job fixing engines. She told herself it was only for a while, just long enough to heal. But months turned into years, and slowly, Sarah Blake became her new normal. She built walls around her heart to protect herself from further pain, and she promised herself she would never again trust people with power over her life. Everything changed when Lieutenant Jake Turner arrived at Crestview. Jake was a young F-35 pilot with a rich family and a big ego. He believed rank made him better than everyone else. His father owned a large company that built parts for military aircraft, and Jake often reminded people of this whenever someone questioned his skill. He walked with his chin high and his sunglasses on, even inside the hangar, expecting everyone to notice him the moment he entered a room. He often walked around the hangar making jokes about the maintenance workers. He especially liked to tease Sarah. "Careful with my jet, sweetheart. he said one morning while she checked his engine. "It costs more than your whole life." His friends laughed. Sarah said nothing. She just kept working, her jaw tight with old pain she never let anyone see. The teasing did not stop there. Almost every day, Jake found a new way to make comments about her job, calling her tools toys and her work guesswork. He seemed to enjoy watching her stay silent, as if her lack of response proved his point. Other young pilots who followed him around often laughed along, afraid to disagree with someone whose family held so much influence on the base. Sarah simply kept her head down, reminding herself that 6 years of silence had kept her safe, and one arrogant pilot was not worth breaking that habit. Chief Daniels did not like Jake's attitude. "You don't have to accept that kind of talk," he told Sarah one evening. "Nobody deserves that." Sarah shook her head and said it was not worth fighting about. She had learned long ago that staying quiet was safer than standing out. Soon after, a new pilot arrived at the base. Her name was Lieutenant Emma Cruz, a young and hard-working officer with sharp eyes and a strong heart. She had grown up watching her father work on aircraft engines, so she understood that pilots depended on ground crews for their safety. Unlike Jake, Emma respected the maintenance crew. She greeted every technician by name and always said thank you after a check was finished. Many pilots walked past the hangar without noticing the workers at all, but Emma stopped often to ask questions and learn more about the jets she flew. She often asked Sarah smart questions about the jets. She noticed small details that most young pilots missed. One day, Emma asked Sarah about a strange sound in her engine. Sarah explained the exact cause within seconds, describing how a small part inside the engine was slightly out of balance and needed adjustment. Emma listened carefully, nodding as she matched the explanation with what she had studied in flight school.
"You explain this better than my instructors,"
she said, her voice full of genuine respect. Sarah only smiled a little and returned to her work, careful not to reveal how deeply she understood the systems she repaired. Over the following weeks, Emma began visiting Sarah's station often, even when her jet needed no repairs. She asked about flight patterns, fuel systems, and emergency procedures, hoping to learn from someone whose knowledge seemed far beyond ordinary training. Sarah gave short, careful answers, but each one revealed a little more of the skill she had spent years hiding. Chief Daniels noticed the growing friendship and quietly hoped it would help Sarah open up again after so many years of silence. Jake noticed the growing respect between Emma and Sarah. It bothered him. He wanted to prove that pilots were always smarter than mechanics. During a training exercise called Red Flag, held at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, Jake got his chance to test his theory. All three of them, Jake, Emma, and Sarah, were sent to Nevada to support the F-35 squadron during 2 weeks of intense combat training. One night, during a training flight, Jake's F-35 suffered a serious system failure. His main screens shut down. His navigation stopped working. His radio picked up only static. He was flying blind over dangerous mountains with very little fuel left. Alarms rang through the control room. Officers scrambled for a solution. Chief Daniels looked around the room and said the only name he trusted: Sarah. She understands these systems better than anyone here. Every eye turned to Sarah. She stepped forward without hesitation. She sat down at the radio and spoke in a calm, steady voice that surprised everyone in the room. Lightning 203. This is ground control. I need you to listen carefully. Jake's voice came through the radio, tight with fear. Copy. I have no navigation. Fuel is critical. Sarah guided him step by step. She explained backup systems that most senior pilots never learned. She told him exactly how to turn, how to read his broken instruments, and how to trust his training. Her voice never shook. As Jake followed her instructions, his jet slowly leveled out. His course became steady. Colonel Michael Reed, the officer in charge, stared at Sarah with growing shock. "How do you know all this?" he asked. Sarah answered simply, "Technical training, sir." But her answers were too perfect, too calm, too skilled for a simple mechanic. Suddenly, a small civilian plane appeared in Jake's path without warning. Sarah reacted instantly. "Turn right, heading 270, now." Jake obeyed immediately, and his jet passed safely behind the other aircraft. The room went silent with amazement. Nobody but an experienced combat pilot could react that fast under pressure. Emma, listening from the flight line, felt a strange feeling rise inside her. She remembered old training videos about a legendary pilot with the call sign Falcon, famous for saving her wingman during a dangerous mission years ago. The way Sarah spoke on the radio sounded exactly like those recordings. "Wait," Emma said softly into her radio. "I think I know who this is." "Back on the ground!" Colonel Reed demanded answers. Blake, tell me the truth. Who are you really?" The room was silent.
Sarah took a deep breath. 6 years of hiding rushed through her mind. She finally spoke the words she had buried for so long. "Commander Sarah Blake, call sign Falcon, former fighter pilot, Navy Fighter Weapons School."
Gasps filled the room. Chief Daniels stared at her in shock, finally understanding the truth behind her quiet skill. At that exact moment, Admiral Karen Wells walked into the room. She was a senior officer who had heard about the emergency and rushed over immediately. She looked at Sarah with deep recognition in her eyes. "I always believed you were innocent," Admiral Wells said. "Colonel Grant confessed everything before he passed away last year. Every charge against you was false. He blamed you to protect himself." The room stayed silent as the truth settled in. Sarah had spent 6 years believing her name was ruined forever. Now, in one single moment, the truth had finally come out. Admiral Wells looked toward the radio. "Finish the job, Commander! Bring him home!" Sarah returned to the radio with new confidence in her voice. "Lightning 203, descend to 3,000 feet. You are cleared to land." Jake landed his jet safely on the runway a few minutes later. As he stepped out, shaking with relief, his radio picked up something unexpected. Emma's voice rang out clearly across the frequency. "Attention all pilots. You were just saved by Commander Sarah Falcon Blake, one of the greatest pilots this Navy has ever trained." The radio went quiet for 3 seconds. Then Jake's voice came through, filled with disbelief and respect. "Falcon guided me home? Then Falcon, you have my salute." Just seconds later, Emma's voice followed. "Falcon, this is Hawk. It is an honor to fly in the same sky as you. You have my salute too." Both F-35 pilots, one who once mocked her and one who always respected her, gave their salute to the woman they now knew as a true legend. Sarah stood by the radio, tears filling her eyes for the first time in years. After 6 long years of hiding, she finally felt seen again. Admiral Wells placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "It is time to come home, Commander." But Sarah did not rush toward fame or rank. She had changed during her years in hiding. She had learned the value of quiet work, of humble service, and of understanding people from every level of the base. Jake walked over slowly, his usual pride replaced with shame. "Commander Blake, I owe you an apology. I treated you poorly without knowing anything about you. That was wrong, and I am sorry." Sarah nodded calmly. "Everyone deserves respect, no matter their job," she said. "I hope you remember that." In the following weeks, the Navy fully cleared Sarah's name. Her rank was restored. Her records were corrected. Reporters wanted to write about her return to the skies. But Sarah made a different choice. Instead of returning only as a pilot, she asked to build a new training program, one that brought pilots and maintenance workers together to learn from each other with equal respect. Emma became her first student in the new program. Jake joined later, hoping to learn humility along with flying skills. Chief Daniels helped train new maintenance workers using lessons Sarah had learned during her years of silence. Slowly, the program grew across other bases too, teaching young officers that true skill has nothing to do with rank, and true respect must be earned, not assumed. 1 year later, Sarah stood at a graduation ceremony for her new training program. She watched pilots and mechanics stand together, trained side by side for the first time. She thought about her years of hiding, her painful past, and the truth that finally set her free. She realized that Falcon had never truly disappeared. She had only been waiting quietly for the right moment to rise again, not just as a pilot, but as a leader who understood every person who helps a jet fly safely through the sky. As the ceremony ended, Emma walked up to Sarah with a wide smile, now wearing the rank of a full lieutenant commander. "You changed the way I see this whole job," Emma said. "Not just flying, but everything around it." Sarah nodded and looked toward the young graduates lining up for their photos, proud and hopeful, just like she once was many years ago. Jake stood a little further back, quietly helping a nervous young technician adjust his uniform before the photo, a small sign of the humility he had learned.
That evening, Sarah walked alone to the edge of the runway, watching the sun go down behind the parked jets. She opened the small box she still kept at home, adding a new photo from the graduation day beside her old trophy and Mike's letter. She smiled softly, knowing that her story was no longer about hiding. It was about rising, teaching, and making sure nobody else had to hide their true worth ever again.